In this video, we're going to talk about the intraday trailing drawdown and take profit trader, how it switches from end of the day trailing drawdown in the test account to the intraday trailing drawdown, what it is, and how to beat the drawdown. Now, before we get started, I want to let you guys know right now, Take Profit Traders is having a 50% sale off all their evaluation accounts. If you use the link in the description box down below, it'll bring you to Take Profit Traders website. Right up here at the banner, you'll see where it says Code Epitome. If you don't see where it says Code Epitome, you can click it in at checkout. But if you click right on here, click Epitome, bottom right hand corner of your screen, it'll save it to your clipboard. And by using the link in the description box down below, you'll see the discounted price of each of the evaluations. And one of the things Take Profit Trader has done recently, they have removed the daily loss limit. So now let's go ahead and start off. You just purchased your first Take Profit Trader account. You are now in the test phase. And notice we have an end of the day trailing drawdown. And I'm actually going to show you guys one of my active test accounts at the time of recording this video. So here we are, we're in the back end, and not every day is going to be a green day. I kind of went on tilt right here, and I thought it'd be good to show you guys this live example, but I want you guys to pay very close attention. Notice in the 150K account, we get $4,500 of drawdown. Now, how do we know that? You can click right over here on the 150K account. It shows you end of the day trailing drawdown $4,500. So on day number one, I have that whole entire $4,500 to drawdown. Then on day number one, I make a little bit of money, roughly 645 bucks. And notice the trailing drawdown actually moved up. On day number one, my account could never drop below $145,500. Then as I made on day number one, I made $645. You can see the trailing drawdown moves up $645. But notice what happens when I have a down day. On this down day right here, we can see that the trailing drawdown basically levels out, and notice the trailing drawdown never moves up until when? Once the account starts getting back above new equity highs. So on day number 5, you can see I was able to get back to new highs before we had that catastrophic, a little bit of a tilt session right there. And now as I continue to make new highs in this account, you can see the trailing drawdown continues to follow. Now, this trailing drawdown will not move throughout the day. So intraday, the trailing drawdown will not move. Now, when we come over and we start looking at the drawdowns in both the Pro and Pro Plus account, notice when we look at the drawdown, they have intraday trailing drawdown, which means the drawdown is going to move as we are in trades. It does not just move at the end of the day, and that trips some traders up. Now, if you traded with Apex Funded Trader in the past, then you know how the intraday trailing drawdown rule works. And if you guys want to make sure you get the best deal trading with Apex, make sure to use the link in the description box down below and use promo code Mike. So let's talk a little bit about the intraday trailing drawdown. And I want to go over some live trade examples with you of trades I've taken during the live stream. And this is another good time to remind you guys that I do stream live each day the market is open. The stream starts roughly 8 to 9 o'clock in the morning, and we usually go to about 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon. If you want to make sure you don't miss the next time I go live, make sure you're subscribed and have the bell notifications turned on for all. So now let's look at the price chart, and I want to show you guys some examples of how the intraday trailing drawdown works. And for this, I'm going to zoom this down real quick, and I just want to illustrate this out, and then we'll actually look at some trades that were placed during the live stream. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a horizontal line right here. The white line is going to essentially represent where I entered the market, and this is a hypothetical entry. Now, with the intraday trailing drawdown, assuming we're starting off with our full drawdown, so in this case, we have $4,500 of drawdown. Now, in this example, let's assume that the market, we were long, the market goes in our favor right up towards the tip of that arrow, then comes all the way back down and essentially stops us back out for break even. With an end of the day trailing drawdown, like in the test account, you would essentially lose 0 of your drawdown. However, if you're trading in the Pro or Pro Plus account and you have an intraday trailing drawdown, then you can see the market went in our favor by 5 points. Now, just to put this in perspective, I'm going to change it to currency, click OK. So in this case, the trade hypothetically went in our favor $100, then came all the way down and stopped us out for break even. Now, since this was the first trade in the cycle, and this was enough to push our intraday equity to new highs, then our trailing drawdown would have moved up $100. So when we got stopped out for break even in this example, you would actually lose $100 of drawdown. But now let's move on and look at example number 2. All right, we're going to leave trade number 1 as we just lost $100 of drawdown. Now in trade number 2, let's assume we got in at that same white line. and now the market moved up and then came back down and stopped us out for break even. Now notice in this second example, if you look at the entry price up here to the highest point we were up, we were only up $65. So question is, would we have lost another $65 of drawdown? And the simple answer is no. And the reason for that is until the market moved at least $100 in our favor, the trailing drawdown would no longer move. And a lot of people say, oh, the trailing drawdown always goes up. It's not that big of a deal, all right? So long as you're not looking for big home run trades where you're letting the market swing in your favor $1,000, $2,000, and then come back and stop you out for break even, that is going to be a problem out there if you're trying to defeat the intraday trailing drawdown. Now, let's look at another example real quick. What if in this example on trade number one, as soon as we got into the trade, the market went down against us, then we ended up getting stopped out all the way at the low. Well, in that example, if we go ahead and we measure from our entry point to the lowest point, then in trade number one, we lost $100. And again, we would just simply lose $120 of drawdown. Now, here's something a lot of traders get mixed up. On this second trade, unless the market pushes up at least $120 in our favor, then guess what? Our trailing drawdown will never move up. So let's say on trade number two, all right, trade number one, we lost $120, but then we look at trade number two and we can see trade number two went in our favor $70 and we closed out the trade. Well, since we were never up more than the $120 that we lost, then again, our trailing drawdown would never move. So for this example, let's look at some of the trade scenarios that I placed out here during the live stream. Here was the first trade, and I want to show you guys. I entered roughly right here where this little marker is, and I got stopped out right down here, and I lost essentially 10 points. Now I'm going to put this on the currency once again, just so we can look in terms of dollars, and we can see that essentially I lost $210 on that trade. However, did I actually lose more drawdown on that trade than $210, assuming this is day number one or the account was at all-time equity highs when I placed this trade? Well, for this, the answer is we actually lost more than $210 because the market initially moved in our favor. And if you look, it moved in our favor by about 2.75 points. So if we put this back on currencies again, we can see the market moved in our favor $55, then came all the way down and stopped us out for $210. Now, just to make math simple as I'm on this video, what we'd want to do is add 210 plus $55. So in this example, I actually lost $265 of drawdown. Now, I know at first this seems a little bit confusing, but it's really not, because now as we go on and we look at this second trade right here, notice unless this trade ever goes more than $265 in our favor, the trailing drawdown will never move. So in this example, let's go ahead and mark this off real quick, put this back on currency. You can see the most I was ever up was $180. However, I didn't close out at the very tippy top. Instead, I ended up closing out right here for only $85. So in this case, the trailing drawdown did not move down anymore, even though I was at a higher point right up in here. I only made roughly $85 on the trade, but I was up $180. Since the previous trade, I lost $265 of trailing drawdown. That drawdown just simply does not move. Now we go ahead and look at the next trade right here. And notice I entered the market right here. I ended up closing the trade out right up in here for about 6.5 points. Again, we're going to put this back on currencies once again. So in this example, I was up $130. So let's go back and do some simple math. Remember, on trade number one of this example, I ended up losing $265 of drawdown. Then on the second trade, remember, I only ended up making roughly $85 on that trade. So then I'm going to minus $85. So still I've lost $180 of drawdown. Then as we come over and we look at trade number three, all right, I only made $130 on that trade, but at the tippy top before it came down, I was actually up $170. Now, since it did not go up over $180, I ended up closing that trade out with $130. Notice minus 130, I am still down $50 of my drawdown. Now, if on the very next trade, I actually end up going positive on that trade by more than $50, then that's when that trailing drawdown will actually move up higher. Now, before I show you guys an easier way to monitor your intraday trailing drawdown, let's talk about how can we actually defeat the intraday trailing drawdown. And it's going to be very simple. What we want to do is we want to look for base hits, and we want to go ahead and trail the stop up. We do not want to allow the market to come too much against us. So let me show you one of the trades taken during the live stream, and you can see how I continue to trail that stop loss. So when the market does pull back, the amount that's lost is very minimal. So now I'm going to show you guys some YouTube shorts that I post on the second channel, showing you guys how I actually trail some of these trades on the way down. And I'll show you guys an easier way to see that trailing drawdown. Come on, feel me. There we go. Try to see if I can get at least down towards that 200 period. Stop at break even. See if we get more. I'm going to trail it down. Keep trailing it. Keep it trailing. Let's go. Let's go. Keep it trailing. Keep it trailing. Let's go. Woo. So now that you got a chance to see a trade live and in action, you see how I continue to trail the stop loss. So if the market whipped back on me, I essentially have minimum loss. However, there's another way we can monitor this drawdown, and that's going to be very simple. We can go right in Intraday. Now, if you notice with this account, remember, I had a couple of these accounts that were actually hurt, and I've almost been able to get the full $4,500 of drawdown back. Now, if you want to learn how to monitor your intraday trailing drawdown inside of Intraday, make sure to watch this video right here.